Have you ever noticed that the moment you truly begin to change, the atmosphere around you shifts? No one says it directly. They won't confront you openly. Instead, it comes disguised. A joke. Advice wrapped in concern. That subtle silence, when you start speaking about something deeper. But beneath the surface, something very simple is happening. Your evolution is disturbing their comfort, because growth is not neutral. It exposes, and nothing unsettles people more than being silently confronted with their own complacency. Maybe you are living this right now. You began thinking differently, acting differently, questioning things you once accepted without hesitation, and suddenly, you feel alone, misunderstood, judged. What no one explained to you, but nature always understood, is that this is the cost of building a powerful mind. Not surface-level confidence, not performative strength, but a strength so real, so grounded, that it unsettles everyone who still lives on autopilot. Why does this happen? Because a truly sovereign mind is a threat to collective mediocrity. The moment you choose to think for yourself, to create your own values, to abandon prepackaged truths, you become dangerous. Dangerous to the system, dangerous to those who depend on your predictability, and most of all, dangerous to the person you used to be. This is not a comfortable video. It is not made for those seeking reassurance. It is not made for those who want easy answers. It is a call, a challenge. It is for you, the one tired of being ruled by insecurity, the one standing on the edge of an internal rupture, the one ready to build a mind that cannot be bent, a mind that cannot be manipulated, a mind that terrifies because it does not submit. If you feel ready for that path, a lonely path, a difficult path, but a transformative one, stay. Because what nature teaches does not comfort you. It confronts you. And once you understand it, you will never think the same way again. Nietzsche was not merely a philosopher. He was a surgeon of the human soul, a man who dared to stare into the abyss, and instead of turning away, stepped inside. It was there, in chaos, in inner disorder, in the psychological darkness most people avoid, that he discovered the source of true strength. Nature does not transform you through comfort. It does not reshape you in stability. Transformation happens in pain, in collapse, in chaos. You need to have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. This is not poetry, it is diagnosis. If you want an unshakable mind, you must abandon the childish belief that it will emerge from comfort, cheap motivation, or positive affirmations repeated in the mirror. True strength is born when you face suffering without escape, when you stop asking life to be easier and begin asking yourself to be stronger. Think carefully. When did you grow the most? When everything was smooth, or when you were broken, lost, directionless, forced to rebuild yourself with your own hands? Nietzsche did not romanticize suffering. He recognized it as fuel. Pain is not an error in existence. It is a forge. And when you change your relationship with pain, with failure, with loneliness, you begin to form something rare, an indomitable spirit. And that is precisely when the world begins to feel uneasy around you. Because while most people run from chaos, you will learn to walk inside it. While others beg for normality, you will build greatness. But this transformation demands a brutal shift in everything you were taught about strength. Strength is not constant smiling. It is not emotional suppression disguised as control. Strength is enduring what feels unbearable and emerging sharper, clearer, more dangerous. Yet chaos alone is not enough. Without a center, it can destroy you. And that is where the next step begins, the most radical moment in Nietzsche's philosophy, when he declares the death of God and places the full weight of existence onto your shoulders. Because when there is no sky left to look toward, the universe must be born within you. And that responsibility changes everything. When Nietzsche declared, God is dead, he was not celebrating. He was warning you. What he killed was not a deity. He killed an illusion. The illusion that someone is managing everything, that there is a cosmic plan, a predefined purpose, a meaning handed to you from above. The death of God is the death of excuses, and that is terrifying, because until that moment, it was easy to outsource responsibility, easy to say, it's part of the plan. There must be a reason. One day, it will all make sense. Comforting, isn't it? To believe that suffering is justified, that someone, somewhere, will balance the scales. Nietzsche tears that veil apart, violently. He looks at you and says, you are alone. There is no ready-made meaning. There is no script. Now, you are the author. And this is where the construction of a powerful mind truly begins. Because most people collapse the moment they realize there is no manual, no guarantees, no divine referee, no one left to blame. But those who can stand inside that realization, without disintegrating, begin to forge something rare, an unshakable consciousness. With the death of God, you are thrown into radical freedom. You are no longer commanded. You must create. You are no longer told who to be. You must decide. You are no longer forgiven by default. You are responsible. This is brutal autonomy. And with autonomy comes weight. Everything now depends on you. Either you build yourself or you sink. There is no salvation, only construction. But here is the paradox. The very freedom that frightens you is your greatest source of power. The moment you understand that no one is coming to save you, something awakens. A fire, a refusal to remain small. You begin to rise even while bleeding. You think for yourself, feel for yourself, act not because it is permitted, but because you chose it. And in breaking from existential crutches, Nietzsche prepares the ground for something even more radical. A new type of human being, not a follower, not a product of the herd, not someone who survives on approval, a creator, a being who writes their own morality, who transcends their own limitations, who lives not as a reactor, but as a force. This being frightens the weak, because his existence is a mirror, and in that mirror, others see their dependence. Nietzsche called him the Übermensch, the overman, not a superhero, not mystical, not fantasy. The Übermensch is the one who has overcome guilt, overcome blind obedience, overcome herd morality, overcome the addiction to approval. He does not seek acceptance. He does not ask for permission to exist. He establishes his own internal law and lives by it, even if it isolates him. That is why his mind becomes unbreakable, because it is not constructed on the expectations of others. It does not feed on validation. It feeds on will, the will to power, not domination over others, but mastery over oneself, the deep impulse to shape reality in alignment with one's own vision. This is the essential shift. The overman does not adapt to the world. He imposes meaning upon it. He does not chase comfort. He pursues greatness. He does not ask, is this allowed? He asks, is this worthy of me? And once you begin asking that question, you can never return to living small. And this shift changes everything. The moment you see yourself not as a servant, but as a creator, your thoughts change, your actions change, even your emotions reorganize themselves. But here is the part no one romanticizes. Becoming this kind of being requires sacrifice. You will have to kill the part of you that still begs for approval. You will have to face the pain of not belonging. You will have to build your identity from nothing, without guarantees, without reassurance, without applause. And most people cannot endure that. They retreat. They run back to ready-made beliefs, back to dogmas, back to rules written by someone else. Because freedom without guidance is heavy. The path to the Übermensch is lonely. Nietzsche knew this. He lived at the margins, misunderstood, mocked, isolated from the very world he tried to awaken. But it was in isolation that he discovered freedom. And this is what you must understand. The stronger your mind becomes, the further you drift from the masses. The higher you rise, the more you disturb. The construction of the overman is the most brutal transformation a person can undergo, because it demands destruction first. You must dismantle everything that is not truly yours, every belief implanted by culture, every fear reinforced by society, every reflex trained by a system that rewards obedience and punishes authenticity. Only after destruction does construction begin. And that construction does not happen in the crowd. It happens in silence, in withdrawal, in deep solitude. This is where strength separates itself from dependency. To become unshakable, you must learn to walk alone. Few are ready for that. Are you? If there is one truth about mental strength that no one tells you, it is this. The stronger you become, the lonelier you feel. Not because you isolate yourself, but because the world no longer knows how to relate to you. Nietzsche spoke of the free spirit, the one who breaks from common morality, who questions easy truths, who thinks independently. Such a person inevitably distances themselves from the herd. And that distance hurts, but that pain is necessary, because growth requires space. You cannot grow while chained to expectations. Most people live inside an invisible herd, every thought monitored, every action measured by reaction. You have grown accustomed to walking in a group, thinking like the group, feeling secure because others surround you. But Nietzsche proposes the opposite. He tears you away from comfort and throws you into the desert. And in that desert, there is no applause, no praise, no validation, only you, your doubts, your wounds, your fears, your temptation to give up. And this is where the real test begins. What will most people do? They will run back. They will hide behind masks again, pretend they do not feel, pretend they do not see. But if you truly want to become unbreakable, you must stay. You must endure the silence that exposes who you really are. The individual must always struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try, you will often feel lonely and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Owning yourself. That is the essence, the rarest achievement. Because when you truly possess yourself, no one can control you. No one defines your worth. No one can reduce you. But possession comes with loss. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood. They will call you arrogant, strange, distant. They will try to pull you back into the mold. They will say you have changed. They will say you are cold. But this is the price of refusing domestication, the price of not needing applause, the price of not existing as a mirror for other people's insecurities. Here is the raw truth. If you cannot tolerate loneliness, you are not ready for freedom, because every real freedom feels like abandonment at first. Abandonment of emotional crutches, of comforting illusions, of friendships built on utility rather than truth. That is why Nietzsche saw solitude not as punishment, but as privilege, a battlefield, the only place where the true self finally has space to emerge. But something else happens there. A free mind does not only walk alone, it begins to see. It sees patterns others ignore, contradictions others defend, weakness disguised as virtue. And with that vision comes the second inevitable confrontation: mediocrity. Because the moment you begin to rise, collective mediocrity feels it, and it reacts. The world does not chase those who conform, it chases those who stand out. Nietzsche did not fear tyrants. He did not fear dictators or visible oppressors. What he feared, and denounced with almost surgical fury, was the silent force of collective mediocrity, that invisible leveling mechanism that keeps everyone small, that punishes independent thought, that rewards obedience, that disguises cowardice as morality. True tyranny, he believed, does not descend from above. It presses in from the sides, from the crowd, from the many who demand you remain average so they never have to confront their own limitations. And this is what happens when you begin to sharpen your mind, when your presence grows firmer, when your spirit becomes less negotiable. You disturb the balance, not because you are wrong, but because you are rare. And society has always feared rarity. Collective mediocrity cannot tolerate brilliance, because brilliance exposes contrast. It reveals what is possible, and that exposure feels like accusation. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a moral system constructed by resentment. Those unable to achieve greatness redefine greatness as evil. Strength becomes arrogance. Ambition becomes selfishness. Independence becomes coldness. Values are inverted not out of compassion, but out of bitterness. Understand this clearly. The weak do not always want to rise. Sometimes they want the strong to kneel. That is why liberation triggers resistance. When you grow, you will be attacked. Sometimes openly, sometimes subtly. A look, a silence, an ironic comment. The message is always the same. Return to the group. You are making us uncomfortable. You are making us feel small. And you are, without saying a word. Most people live inside paralyzing conformity, an existence shaped by fear, guilt, obedience. Anyone who questions that structure is labeled dangerous. But mediocrity does not attack with force. It attacks with numbers, with consensus, with repetition. It will make you doubt yourself. It will whisper, maybe I am arrogant. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I should tone it down. It will use shame, exclusion, social pressure, until you lower your head. And many do, because they cannot tolerate being called strange, difficult, too intense. But Nietzsche would give you another name: necessary. Because while the world recycles ideas, manufactures desires, and worships comfort, it is the strong individual who introduces necessary discomfort. Your difference is a spark, and sparks are always resisted before they ignite something new. To think freely, to live autonomously, to refuse conformity, is an act of war against collective mediocrity. And like any war, it requires preparation, not physical weapons, mental ones, clarity, discipline, self-possession, emotional independence. Because there is a cost to developing a mind so strong that it unsettles others. But there is also a reward no crowd can grant, and no crowd can remove. But in exchange, you gain something rare: integrity, clarity, presence. You will begin to notice that most people are asleep, and your lucidity will disturb them. Your firmness will unsettle them. Your absence will speak louder than the noise of many. This strength does not come from outside. It is not taught in self-help slogans. It is not earned through affirmations. It is not downloaded from motivational speeches. It is excavated deep within, in silent nights, in unseen decisions, in the private battles no one applauds. It is born from an internal war between who you were and who you are becoming. And here is the paradox: that war never ends. The truly strong are not those who have won. They are those who continue fighting even when they could rest. Nietzsche did not want followers. He wanted earthquakes, internal ones. He wanted you to stop crawling for approval, stop begging for meaning, stop searching in external systems for something that can only be built through blood, sweat, and awareness. He wanted you to become dangerous, not violent, rare, so rare that your existence becomes a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable. Now I want you to do something. Not symbolic, real. Write one truth you are tired of hiding, one opinion you are afraid to voice, one thought that isolates you, but represents who you really are. Claiming your voice is part of the transformation. Declaring that you will not bend is part of the forging. And if something inside you stirred while listening, do not stop here. This is not curiosity. You are not here by accident. Something in you has already begun to shift. The next step matters, because once awareness awakens, going back becomes impossible. Keep walking. You are not alone. You are simply ahead. And yes, that is frightening, but it is also freedom.